Yes, good morning, students. So, students, here we will start the history chapter number 7, weavers, iron smelters, and factory owners. Right. So, bacha, in this chapter, we will study about the weavers. Who were weavers? The conditions of weavers, iron smelters during colonial period, and factory owners. All we will study in this chapter. So, see bacha, these are the Indian major seaports, right? As you can see here, New Delhi, Kandla Port, Visakhapatnam, Paradeep, Haldia, right? Many ports are here, so you can please say this. Then bacha, the chapter tells the story of the crafts and industries of India during British rule by focusing on two industries, namely textiles and iron and steel, right? Then both these industries were crucial, very important for the industrial revolution in the modern world. Mechanized production of cotton textile made Britain the foremost industrial nation in the 19th century. And when its iron and steel industry started growing from the 1850s, Britain came to be known as the workshop of the world. Okay, so the industrialization of Britain had a close connection with the conquest and colonization of India. As we know, bacha, even we had studied in the second chapter also that how the East India Company came in India, how they purchased raw material from India, and how they sold the same raw material that they purchased from India at a very cheap rate, but they sold the same raw material or the same goods in European market in a very expensive cost, right? So with the growth of industrial production, British industrialists begin to see India as a vast market for their industrial product, and over time manufactured goods from Britain began flooding India. How did this affect Indian crafts and industries? So this is the question we will explore in this chapter. Right. So bacha, you can see the industrial system as well as the weavers in India. Right. So these are the Indian textile in the world market. Bacha, Indian textile system means you can see the cloth in India. In India, this type of patterns you can see, right? Pattern on cloths. So let us first look at the textile production around 1750. Before the British conquered Bengal, India was by far the world's largest producer of cotton textile. So Indian textile had long been renowned both for their fine quality and exquisite craftsmanship. They were extensively traded in Southeast Asia and West and Central Asia. Bache, here we will study that how the world is attractive towards India for their cloth, for their raw material, for their textile production. Okay, then you know bacha, memories of this flourishing trade and the craftsmanship of Indian weavers is preserved in many words, which is still current in English and other languages. You can also see, even you know bacha, in other languages and in many different words, you can see the system of trading, the system of weaving in India, and it is interesting to trace the origin of such words and see what they tell us. Words tell us histories. So that I just told you about the words, different words which tell us history of textile. So you can see the first word is muslin. But the term muslin is a word that acquired wide currency. Right. So basically what do you mean by Muslim term? Muslim word refers to all finely woven textiles. Right. You can see the muslin cloth. See bacha, muslin piece of cloth. Okay, so next is when the Portuguese first came to India in search of spices, they landed in Calicut on the Kerala coast in southwest India. So you can here see bacha Calicut, right? See, and see in the map I had shown you, right? So bacha, yeah, the cotton textile which they took back to Europe along with the spices came to be called calico. Okay, now yes, now the order that year was for 5,89,000 pieces of clothes. You know, bacha, Britishers means European market ordered to Indians, right? Indian traders as well as they ordered to the agents of European. The agents of European, which I mean, who lived in India, right? But they worked for European market. But the European market ordered those agents, right? So you know they ordered in a very large number of pieces. Okay, and these were known by their common name in the European trade as piece cotton, piece goods. ठीक है, वो क्लॉथ या कुछ और वर्ड यूज नहीं करते थे, दे यूज पीस goods. Okay, then do you know where the English term chintz comes from? It is derived from the Hindi word chint. Chint means a cloth with small and colorful flowery designs. Okay, so you can see the chint. Chint means printed design on fine cloths. See bacha, these, see, even queens at that time they used to wear. Yes, now this is bandana. This is also one of the designed cloth. Okay, and similarly the word bandana now refers to any brightly colored and printed scarf for the neck or head. Okay, yeah, and originally the term derived from the word bandana and referred to a variety of brightly colored cloth produced through a method of tying and dyeing. Okay, yeah, now Indian textile in European market. So by the early 18th century, worried by the popularity of Indian textile, what happened in England? You know, beta, in England they were really worried, and they were worried by the Indian textiles. Okay, which the Europeans purchased from Indian, and they had started to sell the same textiles in European market. From them England, or we can say that England's market or businessmen, they were worried and they began protesting against the import of Indian cotton textile. They didn't want to purchase this, right? So next bacha, because of this, when they started or when they began to protest against this, so in England the act was passed there, and the act was known as Calico Act, right? So in the Calico Act it was banned, I mean the Indian textiles banned in England. So at this time textile industries had just begin to develop in England. Unable to compete with Indian textiles, English producers wanted a secure market within the country by preventing the entry of Indian textiles. So you know bacha, from this line I think you can know that even the Indians export system was banned, means heavy tax was imposed on Indian exports. If any country wanted to import India's material, or India wanted to export its material to any other country, in heavy tax were imposed on India. Okay, then you know, competition with Indian textiles also led to a search for technological innovation in England. So in 1764 the spinning jenny was invented by John Kay, which increased the productivity of the traditional spindles. The invention of the steam engine by Richard Arkwright in 1786, please underline this, 1786, revolutionized cotton textile weaving. Now what is spinning jenny? See bacha, see in the picture, a machine by which a single worker could operate several spindles onto which thread was spun. When the wheel was turned, all the spindles are rotated. Okay, see. Yes, so Indian textile continued to dominate world trade till the end of the 18th century. But European trading companies, the Dutch, the French, the English, made enormous profit out of this flourishing trade. These companies purchased cotton and silk textile in India by importing silver. But as you know in chapter 2nd, when the English East India Company gained political power in Bengal, it no longer had to import precious metal to buy Indian goods. So instead they collected revenues from peasants and zamindars in India and used this revenue to buy Indian textiles. See bacha, these were the major centers of weaving in the late 18th century, right? Who were the weavers? The question is, who were the weavers? As the chapter name is Weavers, Iron Smelters, so who were the weavers? Which are weavers often belongs to communities that specialized in weaving. Who knows the skill of weaving? Who have the skill of weaving? Their skills were passed on from one generation to the next. The Tanti weavers of Bengal, the Julahas and Momin weavers of North India, Sale and Kaikolar and Devangs of South India are some of the communities famous for weaving. But all these are the different names of weavers. Now, if we talk about the procedure, the first stage of weaving, first you can say that the process of making cloth. So, which are in the first stage production was spinning, right? A work done mostly by women. The charkha and the takli were household spinning instruments. The thread was spun on the charkha and rolled on the takli. When the spinning was over the thread, it was woven into cloth by the weavers. So in most communities, weaving was a task done by men. For colored textiles, the thread was dyed by the dyer, known as a rangreis. Please keep it in the mind, the term rangreis. For printed cloth, the weavers needed the help of specialized block printers known as chipigars. So handloom, weaving and the occupations associated with it provided livelihood for millions of Indians. Even most of the Indians' occupation or most of the Indians' livelihood is dependent on weaving. Alright students, so thank you very much.